That is the kind of leader that we have, one who is committed to serving those who live in this generation. He has done it as mayor, and now he does it at the highest level as a member of the President's cabinet, as Secretary of Transportation. Please join me in bringing into our fold a member of our family, the Honorable Anthony Foxx, Secretary of the United States Department of Transportation.
Thank you. First, protocol having been established, let me thank my predecessor, Secretary Rodney Slater. You know, we stand on the shoulders of those before us, and there is no question that I'm standing on the shoulders of Secretary Slater, and I want to thank him for his great leadership, and in a reference to what he said, I want him to know that I don't stop thinking about tomorrow. That's a reference, by the way, to your administration. To Mayoshi Moses, your new Comto president. She's 10 days into the job, so she knows what she's doing now. Fully expect you just to keep on throttling forward. And to your great Comto leadership. I want to thank all the members of Comto for everything you do, for your advocacy, for your work, for the work that you do to advance transportation. I was thinking just a moment ago about a poem that I read in junior high school, and it stayed with me pretty much through now. But as I look across this room, and I think about how much progress has already been made, it reminds me of this poem. I too sing America. I'm the darker brother. They send me to the kitchen to eat when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. No one will say to me, eat in the kitchen, then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. For I too am America. That's this room. That's America. So let me just lay out a couple of ideas here, and I think we're going to save some time for some dialogue, because I've told my staff that I'm tired of speaking. You talk about stuff for so long, but really the issues that we need to talk about are on your minds already. But I'm going to try to get us started a little bit. You know, some of the issues that you and I deal with in transportation have historically been marginalized. They've been kind of niche issues in transportation. And yet, the issues that you deal with every day have everything to do with how this country is going to move forward. I'm reminded of going down to Birmingham, Alabama recently, and having the mayor, Mayor Bell down there, talk to me about a bridge. It was built in Birmingham, Alabama, that literally cut off the black community. Or in Columbus, Ohio, where a freeway did the same thing, cutting off a part of the Columbus community from opportunities in the central business district. And today, that interstate is now being capped, and they're trying to put a new connection to restore the connection that was lost. But ladies and gentlemen, we must not assume that a transportation system that has been developed over hundreds of years doesn't have the issues of the day, the philosophy of the day, the ideas of the day embedded in it. The signs are there as clear as day. And yet, in this young century, we have a responsibility and an obligation to turn the page on that history, to create a new vision of how transportation can become more inclusive, how it can connect more communities, how it can lift people up who are trying to get into the middle class and keep people who are struggling to stay in the middle class there. I see examples of this all the time. A bus rapid transit system in Richmond, Virginia. You know, between the hours of 7:30 and 9:30 in Richmond, Virginia, the ability of someone in one part of Richmond to reach the other part where the jobs are is very limited. Less than 25% of the population has transit access to those jobs. And so we've given Richmond a Tiger grant to create a bus rapid transit system that will move that number from 25% to almost 60%. We're focusing on places where people need a shot. Now, you may say, Mr. Secretary, that sounds all good, but why do you care? Let me tell you why I care. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let me tell you, when I was born, nobody would have told you that was the future Secretary of Transportation. My mother was 19 years old. I lived with my grandparents through my formative years. And when I looked out the window, the first thing I saw was a big fence. And on the other side of that fence was I-85. I walked out of the front door and turned to the right. The next thing I saw 2 blocks up was another fence. That was I-77. 10 years before I was born, those were neighborhoods. But what I saw was literally the evidence of an infrastructure system that had boxed me in. So I grew up in a neighborhood that had one way in, one way out. And for me, the one way out was education. I was grateful for the opportunities that I had, but let me tell you, I am focused on making sure that every single American, no matter where they live, has an opportunity at the American dream, just like I did. So I'm going to run through a couple of quick points. First, folks, we are less than 3 weeks away from the latest extension of the highway bill running out. It's like Groundhog Day. This is the 33rd extension by my count. And you know what this means. You know because you're in this business. You know that you got any 2-month projects out there? Any projects you can start and end in 2 months? You got any 10-month projects? We're tearing the country up. We're tearing the country up. And yet, in Washington, when an extension gets signed, people celebrate. Man, this is great. See what we did? Let me tell you what we did. We have fully 2/3 of our bridges in this country that are substandard. We have congestion that is increasing in many of our major metropolitan areas. Anybody ridden over a pothole lately? This is a country that for generations led the world, the Transcontinental Railroad, the interstate system. The 21st century demands that we renew the commitment that previous generations made to us, that we're going to ensure that the next generation has an even more efficient, an even safer, and a more effective way to move themselves and move goods so that they can capture the opportunities of the future. That's why the President and I introduced the Grow America Act. And by the way, thank you for the title of this conference. If you just took off 3 letters, you would have gotten it exactly right. It's called the Grow America Act. It's called the Grow America Act. The Grow America Act is a 21st century bill. 45% more investment in our nation's infrastructure. For the first time, it would put rail, transit, and highways under the trust fund. It would pump $478 billion into our system, 70% increase for transit, 29% increase for highways. And it would provide us with what we really need, which is certainty, so that we can get off the sidelines and start building this country again. So we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep pushing. But we need you pushing too. We need you telling your members of Congress what's not getting done, what jobs aren't being created, and what people aren't being put to work, and what kinds of things could be happening in this country if we just took a moment to build the future. We also are working in the department on some initiatives that I want you to know about. Empowering communities through connectivity, we launched a pilot. It's called Ladder Step. The President's phrase, ladders of opportunity, is a euphemism for this effort to help people reach into the middle class and folks who want to stay there to stay. We launched this pilot in the following American cities: Atlanta, Baltimore, Baton Rouge, Indianapolis, Phoenix, Richmond, and Charlotte. We did this because we want to test the idea that when you do an infrastructure project in a community, that it has transformative power. So we went to 7 mayors in these different cities, and we said, show us a project that would help increase opportunity for folks who are struggling to find it. They gave us projects, and we're trying to provide the technical assistance to help them get those projects done. We're working to remove barriers to opportunity. We read just a few months ago about a gentleman who was walking 21 miles in Detroit because the bus system was so unreliable. This is a fleet that had enough buses, but half of them were just in such a poor state of condition. So the U.S. Department of Transportation launched a Ladders of Opportunity Notice of Funding Availability to identify projects around the country in transit that would promote access. Well, Detroit received $25 million. That $25 million is restoring their bus fleet. And God knows, I hope we don't have folks walking 21 miles to get a job because their transit system is broken. We're going to fix America with a longer-term bill. We're working to create safer streets. You know, when I was a mayor of Charlotte, as I was leaving, we were seeing this spate of pedestrian and bicycle injuries and deaths. In fact, there was one incident where a father was walking his children on a street that didn't have sidewalks. And he came upon a part of the street where the brush had run into the side of the road, and so just for a moment, he took the kids out into the street. And they were hit and died. We're finding that the pedestrian death rate for Hispanics is 62% higher than non-Hispanics, and the rate for African Americans is 73% higher. And so when we focus on our Safer Streets, Safer People initiative, this is about trying to create an opportunity not only for folks to have access, but frankly for folks to be safe and to get home. We're working on increasing our opportunities to plan, to make sure that the investments that are made in infrastructure are supporting this focus on helping people get opportunities. We see that through the Beyond Traffic study we did, that this country is growing by 70 million people, and one of the trends that we've seen that is being highlighted in the comment period the most is the fact that this rising income inequality issue is a real issue for America, and it's an issue for transportation. So often when these projects get done or get planned, the ones that are going to create the best access points for folks are the ones that are the last ones to be put on the list and sometimes the first ones to be cut. For example, you all know about the issues in Baltimore we've had just in recent months. Well, there's a big project in Baltimore called the Red Line that was on the books and isn't on the books anymore. That's an example of what I'm talking about, but it's not the only one. And so making sure that communities have effective and meaningful ways to input into the transit and transportation plans of their communities, of their states, so they have a voice, is also part of the work we're doing. We're working to build a 21st century transportation and workforce. I want to thank Comto, frankly, for helping us with a youth initiative where we're trying to create more pathways for young people to have internships and opportunities. You know, so many young people have come up to me who are doing some of these internships, and they said, you know, I never would have thought about a transportation career. But because I've had this exposure, I really want to get involved in transportation. I don't know if Keith Parker's here from MARTA, but where are you, Keith? Keith has a great story about growing up in Virginia and getting his first job in transportation, and look at him now. He's running a transit agency. That's what I'm talking about. And finally, we're looking to expand the local workforce. Folks, we've got an exciting pilot with local hiring so that when projects are being done, folks can work where they live. It's a pretty simple idea, and it's one that we believe in, and we're going to make this pilot as successful as possible. So these are just a few things we're doing at DOT to create more opportunities, and I know there's lots of opportunities for us to talk and have an exchange, but I want to thank you so much, and I want you to know that deep down inside, there's still that little boy looking out his grandparents' window, and over the next 18 months, my job is to make sure that instead of seeing fences, we have young people who are seeing horizons. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, who's going to play Oprah? I don't know how this is. Here we go.
Here I come. Scanning. I'm Dr. Barbara Gannon. I'm so pleased you're here. Comto appreciates so much the support the administration and you have all done to help develop the workforce. I'm interested in how do we bring transportation and education together? Do you have any ideas to integrate transportation into K through 12 education and technical schools?
Well, that's a great question. I think the easiest connection is at the community college level, where we can do a lot working with the Department of Labor and with the Department of Education to promote transportation career paths. In K through 12, this is a place where I think we've got to really dig in with some of the mentorships and some of the apprenticeships that we could create. You know, the reality is we have a percentage of young people who are motivated and focused and they have a sense of what they want to accomplish. But there's a wide swath of very capable young people who are still trying to figure it out. And when they get an opportunity to get exposed to a career path in transportation, you never know when the light bulb's going to go off for them. So I would just say that the efforts that Comto's making and some of the sponsors, we've got to deepen that. We need to have a huge, huge effort towards getting young people in that K through 12 area exposed to transportation career paths. They use transportation every day. They need to think about it as a possibility for them going forward.
Secretary Foxx, Dana Lemon. I serve on the board for the Georgia Department of Transportation and also a fellow Davidson alumnus. Yay,
I knew I
Wildcats.
liked you when I saw you. Steph Curry, y'all.
All day long.
Sorry.
My question is, and it was mentioned earlier in our earlier session about telling the story of the significance of transportation and creating communities. As you mentioned in your own community in Charlotte, how that transportation infrastructure decision changed your experience on a day-to-day basis. How do we tell the story, though, Secretary Foxx, outside of this room? We tell each other the story, and we've told Congress the story. So them knowing what's going on is not the issue. How do we tell the story outside of that audience so that we can, in fact, begin to strongly encourage them to do what's in the best interest of their constituents and actually making some decisions that impact their day-to-day lives? Not just saying the words, but actually doing something, and not telling each other the story, because we all know what the challenges are.
Yeah.
How do we move that beyond where we are today effectively so that we can get it done?
It's a great question. I think it's easier to say it in the negative than to say it in the affirmative. In other words, we can look at mistakes that have happened in the course of history when it comes to transportation and point to them. But I think really one of the biggest challenges we have is creating more affirmative cases, more cases of where it gets done right. And that's what I'm continuing to sort of hammer on my team is that, I'll give you an example. There is a practice, with highway noise barriers in some states where if you vote yes in your neighborhood for a barrier, that's a yes. If you vote no, it's a no. If you don't vote, it's a yes. And, I may be simple, I may be off the turnip truck, but, a vote is a vote to me. Like, I want to vote. And so I've tried to make sure that our team ensures that our public input processes are strong and robust and that they are meaningful. But even beyond that, I think we need projects. We need actual projects in the ground in this country that point a 21st century direction. I'll give you one example of one that I can think of is the light rail project in Compton, Los Angeles, which is not only, it's not only an example of a project that is going to re-energize an area that's been historically underserved. It's also an example of people working in their backyard. There's a young lady out there, Ladea Epps, who has 3 kids, and for all I know, probably had to take 2 or 3 transfers to get to work before. On a lark, she went and signed up to potentially work on this site. Didn't think she'd have a chance because she was a woman. She's now working on that site. And she's working close to home, which gives her time back that she didn't have before. And by the way, she says now more women need to work on projects because they do them better. So, But we need more stories like that. And by the way, those stories don't come from Washington. They come from communities that say, hey, this project needs to happen. And until it happens, we're going to keep beating the walls down. That gives us the leverage to help make those projects happen.
For today, our special guest has limited time. So if you're still interested in submitting your questions, please place them in the middle of the tables. We will collect them and try to get them answered in a different forum. Thank you again for your participation today. Mr. Prince will continue the program. One more? One more?
One more, hold on, one more. We got one more.
Okay.
We got one more.
Good morning.
One more, we'll do one more. Do one more.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Secretary Foxx. I'm Claudia Leaf, city intern here in Boston, working at FTA Region 1.
All right.
I have a question on behalf of the city interns and youth. What can we do as college students to push for the reprioritization of transportation?
Oh, wow. What a great question. What a great question. Let me say at the outset what may be obvious, which is that, you know, I feel like I'm a fairly young guy. But almost nothing I'm doing on a daily basis is for something I plan to use. It's really for you. The decisions that are being made right now are decisions that are going to impact your future. And I think it is very important for young people to raise their voices on the issues that are right in front of us. The fact that we have not had a 6-year transportation bill in almost a decade is going to be a bill that this country is going to expect you to pay. And that's not fair to you. So I would just say I'd love to see college kids, young people, starting to raise their voices through social media, direct calls in to members of Congress, really laying out for them that this is a bill that shouldn't be paid by future generations. It ought to be paid right now so we can build the country you need to be successful in the future. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Like Flash.
I must say, it doesn't get much better than that. Thank you again, Mr. Secretary.